Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the weekly MMA Cycles Market Update. Today is the 4th of December, 2024. I'm Gianni DePoce, your host, and we're joined this week by a special guest, the one and only Derek Panaia, MMA's options specialist. Derek, how are you today? Thank you for joining me.
I'm doing great, Gianni. Thanks for having me on again.
Well, it's great to have you back, and we got a lot to discuss. We're not going to get into too much detail because you have a webinar coming up this Sunday, the 8th of December, with Ray at 1 p.m. Eastern. So we're not going to give away all the goods, but we can definitely get insights from you on this overall. Let's start off by looking at the Dow Jones, which hit a new high a couple of days ago. We're still kind of just hanging out near the highs here, but we're in this very intense period of geocosmic activity. We started off this week, Venus trine Uranus. We still are in Mercury retrograde. We have Mars going retrograde this week, Neptune going direct. I mean, the list goes on and on. Venus going into Aquarius, forming a conjunction to Pluto, Sun opposite retrograde Jupiter. I mean, the timing of your options webinar really couldn't be better because I think we're on the cusp of a lot of reversals in this market right now. So what's your take on stocks and what are you looking at in that sector?
Yeah, and in regards to the timing, yeah, Ray and I had picked this time because of all the intense activity.
Yeah.
We would figure it would be a great time, and it's setting up to be a really nice time. You know, the stock markets are all at or near new all-time highs. I mean, that's certainly bullish in itself. Be anxious to see what the next couple of days bring and what kind of setups we have going into the weekend. But certainly opportunity there.
Yeah, well, I'm especially pleased with what happened in the NASDAQ 100 today. We had that intermarket bearish divergence set up where we had a situation where the Dow and the S&P had hit new all-time highs. The NASDAQ had not. So we got rid of that today by rallying to new highs, which is a good sign. And I think that has a lot to do with Venus trine Uranus that started this week. And then obviously now with Pluto in the sign of Aquarius, I think this whole technology theme that we've seen in markets, Derek, is only going to continue. So any take on what's happening in tech or anything related to tech, semiconductors, AI, anything you want to comment on there?
You know, overall, the stock markets look good. I would love to see, another viable dip here. And, you got to just stick with the trend until there's some sign that it's turning here. And I don't think we've seen any of those signs yet. Like you said, the intermarket divergence in itself, which was one little sign, has been erased today.
Yeah.
So there's really not much reason to not be long U.S. stocks right now.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think I agree with you that it looks good right now, and we'll see how long that goes on. I do want to look at interest rates real quick. We'll look at TLT, the long-term treasury ETF. We are seeing this nice bounce here. It's amazing how this low that we had on the 18th of November came just a couple of days, or I think it was within a day or so of Pluto. It was actually the day before Pluto, which rules debt, moved into Aquarius. And I'm still looking at, interest rates falling into next year. So I'm curious, is that something you're going to be talking about in the webinar? And what's your take on interest rates if you're not going to be talking about it in the webinar?
Yeah, I really like the T-note market. About 2 weeks ago, I started getting less bearish on it. And then some of the internal activity looked really good going into the contract switch last. And it seemed to be once again, timing for, a reversal in trend. So right now, the short term, I love to follow the short term indicators in T-notes.
Yeah.
Last week they turned up, so I've been back to the bullish side of this, and where it can go. I know you guys and you personally love this market into, I believe, about the summer.
Yeah, I think so.
That long range timing, and I think that is looking a lot better than it did a month ago.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's I'm especially interested with this whole Doge Department of Government Efficiency. It makes me wonder, if we do get spending reform in Washington, could that be a reason why bonds actually rally? And I don't think it's going to last forever because I think, you'll actually see the economy overheat, but I'm curious what your take is on that.
It's certainly going to get the bond vigilantes running for cover.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting.
So I like it. It really is something I think our balance sheet needs.
Yeah.
And I certainly, if the talk and the action equal each other, I certainly wouldn't want to be short.
Sure, sure. I'm gonna jump over to crude oil real quick. We're seeing some selling here. I'm a bit bearish on crude oil here, and I wouldn't be surprised if we saw a big move coming up with Neptune going direct. Not to mention Sun opposite Jupiter this weekend too. So, are you going to be covering crude oil this weekend in the webinar?
We're definitely going to be covering crude oil.
Okay.
This market has been sideways,
Yeah, I
uh,
know, for a couple of years.
lower highs, lower highs, lower highs. It's been trying to hold, the mid upper 60s range, which it's done successfully so far. But something is about to happen in crude oil.
I think so. I'm with you on that. How about gold and silver? You're seeing some, modest rebounds in gold. Silver really finding some traction today to the upside. I think we're coming out of a fresh news cycle low in silver. I know this is something you'll be talking about, and I'd imagine you're going to be talking about copper as well in the webinar. So any surface level insights you can provide us today on metals, and if you want to look at copper, I can pull that up too.
Yes, silver, kind of like T notes, just a few days later has started turning the averages up too on the short-term basis. And today's move is a short-term confirmation of that. So this market is technically getting a little more constructive on the bullish side.
Yeah, I think it looks really good. And obviously, it'd be irresponsible for us to not talk about cryptocurrencies. It is the talk of the tape right now. Bitcoin hanging out near its all-time highs. I really like what's happening in Ethereum here, doing exactly what you would expect coming out of an intermediate term cycle bottom in September. But I think there's a lot more value in Ethereum right now. And, going into next year, and now with Venus going into Aquarius this weekend, I think that's more fuel for the crypto fire right now. So any comments you want to provide on what's happening in crypto? Where do you see this ending? And is this something you'll talk about in the webinar too? I don't know if you usually don't talk about crypto in the webinar, do you?
We do not cover crypto in the
Yeah,
webinar. It's something that I've watched for many, many years, but have traded very little crypto. Maybe it's just, my age, my generation. I love commodities because I can hold them. It's always been my attraction to trading commodities,
sure.
physical commodities. Crypto, it's just obviously I follow the charts and Bitcoin here is, it reached a number people talked about a long time ago, 100,000.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I'm happy for everybody that hung in there. And I don't see any reason in the charts to tell me that it's going to stop right here. Uh,
yeah,
and again, you have made some great comparisons to using Bitcoin as a kind of a leading sentiment indicator or a sentiment indicator in general for equities.
yeah.
Again, you got equities, S&P, NASDAQ at new time highs today, a new all-time highs today. And Bitcoin's not saying run for cover here or start
I
taking
agree.
profit.
Yeah, I mean, you would just think that if we are going to see a stock market crash, I don't think that Bitcoin would act as a safe haven. You know what I mean? So if stocks were to crash, you'd probably see some hard selling in crypto first. And I think that's been a really good way to help weather some of the volatility that we've seen over the last year or so in stocks. That is, crypto, Bitcoin holding near its highs. Now it's undoubtedly in an uptrend now. And I'm with you. I think it does want higher. But I'm a little bit more bullish on Ethereum now. So yeah, but it is good to help gauge the risk sentiment.
Absolutely.
Is,
Absolutely.
are there any other markets that you want to cover here today, Derek? And if not, anything else that you want to share with viewers in regards to the webinar on Sunday? Like I said, I don't want to share too much, but I just want people to attend your webinar because Derek is our options guy, and you do a lot of spread trading, so helps you minimize the risk. And if you're right, you can make a lot of money. So any other markets you want to comment on, or any final comments that you wish to share about the webinar on Sunday?
Yeah, as a general overview, we have several markets that have been going sideways for weeks or months. And when that happens, when you get in these consolidation periods, options tend to retract in implied volatility. That means options get cheaper if you're
Yeah,
looking to buy them. And it makes them more attractive and it makes their percentage gains even more potentially explosive. I see some really interesting setups coming for starting in this period, but culminating in spring of 25. And I think with this lower volatility, there's going to be some really good opportunity to take some limited risk, and certainly with a lot of upside potential trades.
Great. Well, everyone, join Derek and Ray this Sunday at 1 p.m. Eastern for the options webinar to get all of the insights and trade strategies for these markets going into next year. Of course, it is forecast season, so Forecast 2025 is at the printer. Pick up your copy at www.mmacycles.com. And next week, we will have the monthly cycles report, MMA's flagship product and service that has been in publication for over 40 years. Our updated outlook on stocks, bonds, commodities, currencies, and more is shared in that report, and it's written by Ray and other graduates of the Merriman Market Timing Academy. Derek, thank you for joining me. Any final words before you take center stage on Sunday?
Just going back to the forecast book, I've been getting that book for more years than I can remember. And if that's something that some of our viewers have not listened or have not purchased yet, it definitely make the investment. It's not a lot of money for that book, and it can give you some great insights and overviews about potential setups and potential, forecasts for the year ahead. It's nice to have that big overview, that game plan, and then to watch the shorter term stuff to see how it plays out. But knowing what the potential upsides and downsides are to many of these major markets it's just something that I think every trader should have.
Great. I'm with you on that. I've been more recently contributing, but reading that book, I think since 2016 myself. So yeah, I'm with you. But you've probably been reading it a little bit longer than I have. So
Few more years than that, absolutely. I got a little collection of them on my bookshelf.
yeah.
The webinar is going to be great this Sunday. I think that's another great investment. You're talking about $100 or $200 for potentially, 10 X's on your money and the ability to make a lot of money with limited risk. And that really should be appealing to any trader, but especially smaller traders where sometimes the risk involved in a futures contract is just too much, or even the margin on a futures contract. Using options, you can put on synthetic positions that are, a partial futures contract. And with options, if they're not spread out, and we'll be doing some naked options, you have the chance at potentially unlimited rewards. So it's a really great way to approach some of these setups in these markets.
Very good. Well, like I said, everyone, Sunday, December 8th at 1 p.m. Eastern, Derek and Ray will take you through the MMA's option strategy going into Q1 2025. So Derek, thanks again for joining me, and we will see you on Sunday.
Thank you, Gianni.